Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Green, and this is my Training for Differences project as our final project for this course. So for the case study, I chose case study 3, Manufacturing Onboarding. For this project, the case study states you are the training manager for a large manufacturing plant with a total of 800 employees, 70% line workers, 30% supervisors, executives. A new operations manager has come in to make some needed changes in hiring practices, namely adding more women and minorities to the workforce. The ops manager has also been keen to add the workforce people with various physical disabilities from the local occupational health centers back to work program. These shifts have made it obvious that the onboarding material is no longer relevant and potentially disorienting to the new workers. New onboarding material must acknowledge this while also reflecting the changing culture within the organization. In this scenario, it also states, in this scenario, provide your view of how training for difference and or cultural competence can be applied for onboarding new employees. So with this case, it did not specifically ask to utilize a theory or a model like the other two cases did. So I was able to interpret this scenario in my own way, that I need to basically provide my view of how training can be applied to onboarding to create it a more inclusive experience and process. And from there, in my mind, onboarding really starts from whoever is in charge of it and delivers it to all the new hires. So when it comes to the ADDIE model, we'll first start off with the analysis. This analysis phase is applied by first identifying who the learner or learners will be that are receiving this training. So like I said, I believe that starts with the onboarding manager or employee who delivers the onboarding, and so that would be the learner. Then it could also be the current hires and managers, so that they are creating an inclusive environment, and that way they are being educated about inclusivity and diversity. So basically this phase will identify where the gaps are. It also helps to identify the primary goal, and in this scenario, the primary goal of this training is to create a more inclusive onboarding experience that considers all new hires, regardless of background, gender, ethnicity, disability, any difference, etc. For the next step of the ADDIE model, we have design. So this phase is applied to the scenario because it identifies and outlines the strategies and materials that will need to be developed in order to achieve the primary goal. This is where the learning objectives, content, layout, etc. is handled, and basically this is what basically forms the program's visions. So if I were to create an actual training program for this scenario, what I would do is create a presentation, both for the onboarding manager, a little bit more one-on-one, as well as the current employees and managers. That way I'm educating everybody. So in that presentation include some role playing, case studies, and then I would also create a participant and facilitator guide that can be completed during the training and include those different activities and any sort of handouts and any other activities I might think of. And then I would also create, maybe even outline a mentorship program so that new hires are paired up with current hires and would feel more comfortable and welcomed no matter what their difference is. The next phase will come from the development phase. So this phase applies to the scenario because this is where the thoughts, ideas, outline of the program is actually developed. This is what will be transferred to the learner and or learners in order to achieve that primary goal of building out an exclusive onboarding experience. The next phase begins with the implementation phase, So this phase is applied in this scenario because this is where the presentation and the materials and everything that was developed are actually being delivered. It looks into how, where, when the training will be actually delivered. In McCardle 2015, it was stated, implementation itself carries out the goals and objectives of the program, and it provides the data for assessing program effectiveness. So how the trainer implements the training is huge, and in that case, in this scenario, it would have been me. Basically, the trainer needs to understand how to deliver that information and that presentation so that way it is an effective program and the learner/learners are actually learning and will make a difference. And then in the last phase, we have evaluation. This phase applies to the scenario because after the program, it evaluates if the onboarding experience actually indeed has become more inclusive and if we achieved our primary goal. This is to see if the company was able to close the gaps within the training between the previous training and then the new training. And then this phase will take the most time, but it definitely is the most important and valuable aspect because it sees if that program was indeed successful and then where there could be improvements, maybe some additional materials or presentations for the next training, as continuously training the learners is always a good idea. So in my eyes, it is best not to evaluate the actual ROI of a company. Bennington and Lafley 2012 actually said that it is difficult to assign a financial value to learner skills and ability. So that's why I believe it's not best to prioritize the ROI. I mean, it is definitely doable. I think if I guess you wanted to measure the ROI before any sort of program or training is in its analysis phase, and then if you wanted to do the ROI, test the ROI again and get that number a good 6 months, however many months after the evaluation has been determined. I also missed this step real quick, but for the evaluation, I would utilize Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of learning evaluation, which Kurt 2018 said that it included reaction, which is basically getting the learner's reaction. Learning is to see if after the program, if the learners actually learn something. Transfer is to see if the skills and abilities and knowledge that they did learn during the program, if it's actually been transferred to the workplace. And then results basically goes into that evaluation stage where you down the line you're seeing that those employees, the onboarding manager is becoming, is achieving that primary goal. So then what I have learned from this, not only this project, but this course, the major group assignment that I learned, was that I really got to dive into this HRD model and truly understand the purpose of it and how and why it is effective when it comes to training, especially in a workplace, which can be and is a major aspect that training is applied. Everyone needs to continue learning in my eyes. So this project alone, it was nice to kind of add the HRD model, incorporate it with a different scenario, and then even though I wasn't able to actually create an actual program like we did with our group assignment, I know that if this would have been a bigger assignment, I think it would have been a lot of fun to create those presentations, create those handouts and materials and all that stuff. So I will definitely be using the knowledge, the HRD model, and everything else I have learned in this assignment and the other assignments in this course. I will definitely use it for my future work when and if I start to train actually train employees, which I believe I will encounter it down the line. And then lastly, here are my references. So I just want to say thank you for watching my Training for Differences presentation, and I hope you enjoyed.